Welcome, welcome to all the beautiful souls out there. I actually haven't done a podcast for a little while. I've been moving house. I'm here now in more far North Queensland. I was already in far North Queensland, more far North Queensland, here hanging with the crocodiles lately and facing my primal fears. But I connected with Yvonne, this beautiful soul who I'll get you to introduce yourself and what you do, Yvonne, in a moment. But I connected with you, first of all, when you were doing shows with Sovereign, who's a popular guest here on My Health podcast. And I was like, the wisdom pouring out of this woman is exponential. And I just connect so much with what you share and your energy and your vibration. And you reached out then to me about, let's have a chat. What's going on with Australia at the moment? I was moving at the time. It wasn't the right time, but all of a sudden it was the right time. And here we are. And I want to also talk about your awakening and what you were shown in terms of what would be the unfolding process from your awakening through 2012 into this ascension process. But first of all, just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your work.
Wow. Well, I've been at this for about 35 years. So my awakening occurred around the harmonic convergence of 1987. And it was, they talk about rip off the Band-Aid. Well, that was really what happened with me. So I was thrown into a spiritual awakening that I had absolutely no idea about, because I was always told I was very intuitive, but I was very busy with my physical life. So, mother of 3 children at the time, and a busy person. And so I suddenly, my life just fell apart, and I had to find a way out, and I was guided very, very rapidly into what then became my journey and my mission, and was told that this was what I'd signed up for, and I volunteered to come here. And my instant response was I insane? Because my life was not actually, a bed of roses at the time. But in those downloads, we talk a lot about downloads. I never knew what to call them, because I would go to sleep knowing this much and wake up in the morning as if somebody had downloaded an encyclopedia into my head. And I'd wake up and go, what's in there, right? So to cut a long story short, I was given the whole scenario of Ascension. And what was funny about that is, because now we talk about it and it's a word everybody seems to know, but the language at the time was, when you talked about a soul, it was something that was on the bottom of your shoe. So there was none of this language available. And I would get literally knocks on the door, and I'd moved from my old home to a new place, and strangers would knock on my door and hand me bags of material, books and tapes, and they'd say, "Oh, we were told to bring you this." And I'd go, "Really?" And one of those things was I think a 12 set of tapes. I'm pretty ancient, so it was tapes in those days, and called the Ascension. And it was the whole scenario so it was all channel material from Sananda and the White Brotherhood, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And when we look at it now, you go, oh yeah, right, mm-hmm. But it was pretty shocking for me. So in that time also, I was told that we were going through this period of ascension, which was going from the 3rd dimensional, through to the 5th dimensional. I was shown how the new earth was being born. They were giving me diagrams, and it was, very eye-opening and heart-opening for me. But the scenario really that was going to occur according to them, and they've all occurred, was first of all there would be something would fall on Manhattan, and we all thought at the time, those very few of us who were awake, thought it would be a meteorite. Well, we all know what happened to Manhattan. That would bring down the economic system, because that had to be dismantled. There would be the fall of the Roman Catholic Church. There would be the fall of the USA. It would have to be dismantled. And, well, we've been experiencing that through the last 2 years. I was told that there would be a third world war. And because I've been through, 2 wars already by then, I thought we would have bombs flying. But, of course, they're much more subtle about it these days. And so there would be an antichrist that everybody would love, but was actually pre-programmed in the Middle East to bring down the USA. That was something to be instrumental in a global change. So all of these things, when I look at them, so I was given all of that. However, the wonderful thing is why I stuck with it was because at the end of it all, we were, this was the transition of the Earth. The Earth is moving into its new position in the galaxy. And I was, really educated about the 13.5 or the 26,500 year orbit and how we were coming through the photon belt and coming into a time for the Earth where only light was possible. And so we would come out of all this warmongering that we had been experiencing. And for me, that was all I needed to hear. I was in. And that's what I've been working towards really for 30 years, educating people, supporting people, bringing them back to empowerment, teaching that who we really are. And that's where you find me today.
Oh, bravo. Wow. Enlightening to hear that, Yvonne. And yeah, obviously for you back in the day, that you would have been considered very alternative. And I'm sure you had to be very selective with who you shared your downloads and your insights with. I know for me, running my health for, going on 24 years now, and I was called all sorts of names, Moonbeam and which I take as a compliment. But really, we had to work within our own closed circles. We are fortunate today that we can speak more publicly, and these terms are really understood now. People really understand what you mean at some degree anyway, when you talk about fifth dimensional consciousness, when you talk about ascension, doing the inner work, what it means in order to be on the high road, if you like. We talk about the Mayans and the two road split that we're seeing play out at the moment. What does it mean to honor yourself and the Christic nature within you that often goes against the mainstream, or I would say just about always goes against the mainstream? How can we navigate this path at the moment when there are seemingly so many obstacles in our way? And yet we know from teaching Ascension for so long that it's not designed, and when I say designed by ourselves, designed by our highest self. It's not designed to be easy. Ascension wasn't meant to fall in our lap. We created our own hero's journey with the ultimate villain, with the ultimate opponent, with the obstacles, so that we would have that spiritual challenge, we could flex our spiritual muscles, and we could continue on the ascension pathway. And so often we're bemoaning what's happening and it's not fair, and why can't this pressure go away? And of course, at the moment, the pressure is daily. It's coming at us thick and fast. And yet this is what Ascension is about. This is what if we remember, we designed this galactic story so that we could truly understand what this realm of form and matter is all about. So let's take us, if you can take us then to, and this is where you and I connected in, because we were having the same downloads about Australia leading. And I know I've offended some people about that, because I wasn't saying Australians have more insight and more wisdom. It's not about that at all. We're talking more about the codons that are sitting here in the grid system of Australia that are firing. And if we look at what happened December 21st, 2020 with the magic box, Uluru magic box activation, we know 15 million people tuned in. That's a pretty rare event. 15 million people tuned in to send energy to Uluru, there was an activation, a crystalline activation, these crystals planted by the Pleiadians, who knows how long ago, eons ago, which are ourselves in another form, as a memory process to help us remember, reactivate. And we always say remember, reactivate, because we've never lost it. We've just had a bit of spiritual amnesia and we're just coming back. Oh yeah, that's who I am. And so that crystalline grid system works and connects effortlessly and spontaneously and instantly to all the other sacred sites in the world. And that's how I saw Australia leading. But I'd love your insights, more so when you've had your awakening and what you were shown then, and also how you would describe it now in terms of Australia leading.
Okay, so it's not just me, because many people have actually spoken about it and it's been prophesied. And one of the problems that we have at the moment with this transition into a higher state of consciousness is this identity crisis, that humanity has become so attached to its avatar that it doesn't, which is its personality, its persona, its what I call survival mode, consciousness, that they don't look beyond it, that they don't look at the bigger picture. And I love the bigger picture because, when you look from a distance, it's always a better view. So when we're talking about Australia, that very few people, I thought everybody knew that this globe has its own chakra system, right? It has its own centers or its own vortex. I never know what that is. Is it vortex or vortices? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Many vortexes. Where there are portals of energy. And so one of the things that I was instructed with very early in the case was that I would be a grid keeper. Well, at the time, I had no idea what the heck that meant. But when we were talking about Uluru, in 2019, I was told that I needed to go to Uluru and place a crystal into the rock that would be activated at some time later. And that's exactly what I did. I had no idea what was coming at the time. So I also was told to do that same thing many years ago in Bali, which I also did, and in Peru and other places where I would wake up in the morning. They say, go there and take a crystal and put it wherever. So when I was first awakened and I was given all this information, one of the things that was given to me was that the power. So if we look at history, we look at the early ages where the central power came from Europe, in the days of the explorers, and they all went and that is really how they brought the countries together, and we realized that there were more countries than in Europe. So that's where the power was. And then that was transferred to the USA. And for some reason, the USA seems to have become the leaders of the world, which I've never quite understood, because what was coming out of there was not really in resonance with me whatsoever. However, it has been for a long time a controlling center of this earth. And so what I was told was, for the awakening to the higher dimensions, this was not going to be a physical thing. It wasn't going to be oriented on having. If you have a look at the explorers, it was about having and collecting, and that's what the power in the USA has been about, having and taking, But the next dimension that we are going through, the evolution of humanity and the earth, is based on a very different vibrational frequency that holds none of that. So the only continent that was going to be fueled with, and that was being prepared, or had always been prepared for it, was Australia, because it's a long way away from everywhere. It's also, as they call it, the solar plexus chakra of the earth. which is the control center, funnily enough. And that is one of the things we have to let go of, this need to control through the mind. We need to let go and allow the heart to show us where to go. So I was then told, yes, that Australia was going to be the next power center, but not the way that we remembered it. It was going to be the power center of the new earth, of the higher consciousness, the higher dimensional places that our future generations would be living through. And so when you posted something about you had a dream that Australia was going to lead, and really we have to stop making that suddenly an ego thing. Oh, we Australians. Well, I've got some news here, that we Australians have signed up to live in this country for a purpose. Get over yourself and start living from the heart. Stop living from this, we need, the have-tos, and if I don't have a job, and we need to start living from the heart. That is what we signed up for down here. And we have it inside of us. So that's what I'm all about. Let's just turn the key and open the heart and show the world what it's like to live in a higher state of consciousness. And that's our job down here.
That's it. Thank you for putting that into words. And we have to remember that. And I know you said you're not of the convict heritage per se, even though you're an Aussie true blue, because you've been here for so long now. But we have to remember that those who came as convicts were the rogues, were the people that were able to stand up to the establishment. So we actually have that very deep code within us that says, I will not comply, I do not consent, I am sovereign, coupled with, of course, our beautiful First Nation people. Let's pay reverence to them because they carry more activated strands of DNA, and many light workers do as well. And so we never want to say that we aren't the same as them. Of course we're the same as them. It all is to do with your own spiritual vibration, your own energetic vibration based on the inner work that you've done. So we can't generalize, but we must pay reverence to the original people who have been holding that highest vibration here on the earth and in Australia for, we could almost say millennia. We don't actually know, but it's a long, long time. And so we're able to really capture that energy here from the grid system and from the collective unified field that's here, but also across the entire planet. So it's okay for everyone to claim who they are. As a good-hearted, warm-blooded Australian, you are entitled to claim who you are. And in fact, if you don't, what you will see is that nefarious power will overrun you. If you don't get some balls, so to speak, and I think we can say that about Aussies, they definitely have balls. So now is the time. Now is the time to stand in your power. Now is the time to claim who you are. Now is the time to say, I am connected to this country, just like the original people have shown me. I am of the earth. I am of the rocks. I am of Uluru. I am of all of the nature. I am of all of these powerful creatures that I find around me that are, I was talking about crocodiles. We've got a resident crocodile here where I've moved to. To begin with, that scared the bejesus out of me. And then I did the reframe and I went, wow, Carrie, you're really getting some deep underworld codes there. And who are we working with at the moment? The underworld. Who is coming at us? The reptilian forces. The crocodiles, they're not the nefarious ones. But we certainly know there's reptilian forces in our governments, in our media, the cabal system that runs the world. We need to really, truly understand how they operate so that we can look them in the eye, face them square on and say, I see who you are. You even represent aspects of myself, my own reptilian brain that if I let run wild would destroy me. But I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go that high path. I'm going to be all that I came here to be. I'm going to come from the heart center. You said, Yvonne, turning the key, and I saw that. Turn the key to your own heart. Let it all flood out. Don't be embarrassed about being that moonbeam tripper, love light hippie that you've probably always secretly wanted to be. It's now time. And I call on not so much the women. I can see a lot of women here commenting, and I know that the women, that goddess power is very alive and strong at the moment. We're almost calling on the men to step into that role now as well, and to know that there's no shame in truly embracing your spiritual side, truly knowing what it means to live from the heart and to take risks at the moment, to put truth, love first. This is how Australia will lead. So it is time for the men and many women to step up. So Yvonne, what's going on? What can people do at the moment in order to, if we just get down to the grassroots of what's happening, people are being faced with maybe needing to resign from their jobs because, the tyranny's really at us like that. It's right there in front of our nose. What can people do? What are your insights for people to navigate this path?
Well, it's a great question. And I just want to go back to you talking about the convicts coming from people who walked away from tyranny, who stood up for it, because most of the people that actually were sent to Australia were people who might have stolen a loaf of bread, for the well-being of their families. They hadn't, it wasn't about murderers and all of that. Because those people said no. They said, no, we need better for our families. And they took what they needed. But the same thing happened with all the migrants. My parents came here because we escaped Sukarno's tyranny in Indonesia, who was running around, telling people with machetes to chop off white people's and Chinese people's heads. And so we went back to Europe, where, of course, everybody was flooding back into a very small country, and it was very crowded. And we decided then, in fact, my father we were on our way to go to Peru, which is really funny for me because I actually did my shamanic journey in Peru eventually. But we landed in Australia. And when you think about it, then every Australian today, of the non-Indigenous ones, we all come from a stock of people who walked away from tyranny, who came to look for freedom. They have sacrificed themselves for their children and their children's children. And that is a memory that I think I want to bring home to everyone on this planet, in this country. Honor your ancestors, honor the people that brought you here for freedom, which is now being taken away from us. And so within every one of us are the balls, as you call it, okay? It's what I love about Australians. They are so great about, going, we're not doing this. And so I was rather surprised that everybody just laid down and did what they were told, because Aussies are not known for that. So what can we do as individuals? Because the outer is just an expression of the inner. So we cannot expect the outer to change if we don't change the inner. And so we need to find that courage within ourselves. We need to be able to stand firm and go, no. And many years ago, I created a thing called the Blueprint, which was 3 questions of what kind of world do I choose to live in? Who do I then choose to be in that world? And what do I choose to experience? And more than ever, that is now necessary to ask yourself and to answer. I choose to live in a world of love. And not I love you love, but the love of creation, where creation is free to blossom, to grow. I choose to live in a world connected to source, where the only master I have is my soul. So I don't have to follow anybody else. And it's coming home to remembering who we are. We have to get out of our head. We need to get into our heart and into our soul. And that is the journey we all have to travel as individuals. And that means that we have to look at ourselves and say, well, where am I not living in alignment with freedom, in alignment with love for my fellow man? Where am I still judging? Where am I still allowing fear to be my ruler? So these are all the things that we have to clean up within ourselves. As far as a united front, I am so, so proud of Australians. I'm so proud. I'm absolutely useless in a crowd, so you'd have to wipe me off the floor. But then at my stage of life, I think I'm allowed not to do that. But I watch this incredible mass of humanity suddenly waking up and coming together in camaraderie, no matter what color, no matter what creed, no matter, I've always had this crazy thing about wanting to take a wooden spoon and stir all of humanity up so that there wouldn't be any separation in color and creed and all these rubbish that people go on. Because we are, when I spend a lot of time in an operating room in charge of theatres, right? And so I've looked at people inside and out. And I tell you what, when you peel the skin away, we're all the same colour, so forget it. It's so important. And I just know that when we come home to our soul and we see ourselves in another as another expression of source, of the God consciousness, and we live with acceptance and tolerance and love and come back to our human kindness, that's how we will evolve into the fifth dimension.
So beautiful. As someone said before, we are one tribe, and it was Auntie Minnie Mae's beautiful elder that I'm friends with that's done work with us, and she taught me about the rainbow tribe and why it's so important, as you've just expressed, that we see each other just as one consciousness. There are no skin colors, and I know that does cause offense for some people, and I truly understand why, because we're not here to bypass some of the traumas that have happened, particularly here in Australia or anywhere for any Indigenous cultures. However, we must awaken into this now moment in the fifth dimension that sees us all as that mottled expression of rainbow energy. We're just streams of consciousness. We came for a very specific mission. Anyone listening to this broadcast knows that they are a light worker, star seed, whatever you want to call yourself. It can change from day to day. That term you said, I think it was grid worker, or there was a better term that you used, Yvonne. And it's, again, we need to claim that at the moment, because if we don't announce to all that is that we have remembered who we are and that we are confident to drive this mission forward, then again, those forces, those nefarious forces that are not just tiptoeing around anymore, like they are knocking at the door, then they have their way with us. So many people falling over at the moment because they really did not want to take what's been offered by the government, and yet they're feeling that they must in order to keep their jobs, feed their families. We're never going to say what's right or what's wrong. However, because Yvonne and I are both spiritual teachers, what's important to remember is if you stand in your sovereignty and you stand in the light of grace and you say, I choose to put my soul first, you will be surprised what miracles will enter. Now, I know that requires a lot of trust and a lot of faith in the unseen realms. But what have you got to lose? You may as well give it a go, I would say, at the moment, because this is how creation works. We, in a multidimensional sense, in our highest self, in our highest multidimensional self, we call that God, Goddess, Source, is actually conducting this whole experience. We are creator experiencing our own creation. So it's never outside of ourselves. We are our own hologram or we are experiencing our own holographic reality in the broader hologram, in the matrix, we might call it, here in the third dimension. And when we choose that miracles can happen, and when we stand in our light, and when we invoke what we need, and I would go as far as to say at the moment, we need to use our power to command what it is that we require at the moment to protect ourselves, to protect our family, to have enough abundance in order to feed ourselves and all of these things. We're really getting back to basics and having to command our reality. And for people who've never done that before, it can seem very foreign. And again, you may feel like you're just imagining things, that you're needing to, almost like you're a child again. Hey, like you need to just be role playing a little bit. But I promise you it works, and the miracles will come because creation will take care of you. Same as the birds are always fed, they don't have to look for the next meal ahead of time. Everything aligns in nature just as you need it in every now moment to support exactly what you need moving through your ascension pathway. And so we must go forward with that much faith and that much trust in the unseen realms. There's a great Hopi prophecy that talks about getting into the fast-flowing river at this time. And we must just simply enter that fast-flowing river, and we're asked to do it alone. We're asked not to expect anyone to come with us. And that can be challenging for many people because some people, particularly people, I guess, with very big hearts, want to take everyone with them. It's, here's the way, everyone come with me. But actually, we've got to go our own pathway and our own journey at the moment. And that fast-flowing river will take you through all sorts of twists and turns and may somersault you upside down, and you don't really know where you're at. And you can't set things up ahead of time. You can't put a big log down the fast-flowing river or a big boulder that you're going to hold on to. There's no time for that. You must simply get into the fast-flowing river and just let yourself be carried by the current of life. So, Yvonne, I want to talk about, you and I have such similar ways that we see what's going on. It's just such a delight talking to you. I want to talk about when you said about the photonic light coming in and what's happening, and put it in your own words. We don't need to be technical here. What's happening in terms of the astrology wheel? We're coming out of, you talked about, the old age that we were in and what was going on in the USA. And we might say that was the age of Pisces where the man sat at the top of the perch. Now we're in the age of Aquarius. Anyone knows, I wasn't there in the 60s, but anyone knows if you're from that time, just the song Age of Aquarius, it kind of said it all. It means that we're all holding hands together and we're moving through this ascension as one. So what's going on? We're lining up with the galactic center. What's going on with that photon belt and that photon energy from your own perspective?
Well, the way that I was shown it at the time, when I first started, I was shown a circle, that was the Earth, and then there was this little sliver like a new moon coming from it. And they go, well, this is the birth of the new Earth. And I went, oh, okay. And I said, are we having split of planets? But look, I am certainly not a student of astrology. Excuse me. I wouldn't even dream to go there. And so I will just give it to you as it was given to me. And that was that we go around the central sun, Alcyon, 26,000 so years for our years is our orbit. And so I equated that to our orbit of 24 hours a day. And if you look at our orbit of 24 hours a day, there is a period of dawn before day and there's a period of dusk before nighttime. So that is how it was explained to me. The photon belts are the dawn and the dusk period. So we are coming out of the dark, out of the nighttime of this 26,000 years going around the central sun of Alcyon. That's not our sun, that is just the central sun of our galaxy. And so what they showed me at the time was that we were just then coming into what was going to be our dawn. And so, when it's always darkest just before the dawn, and that is what we've been experiencing. So during those 13,500 years on the dark side of that orbit, we've been going through things that we've heard in mythology a lot about, the Iron Age and the Bronze Age and this age and the other age. But we've always been given that we were going to go to the Golden Age. And that is what we're entering. So it always amuses me because we have been so indoctrinated to believe that there are humans who can control nature, who can control these things. And it makes me laugh because we're not even as large as a flea on an elephant's back. And so, because we are nature, I'm no different to the plants behind me. When we stop thinking that we're better than, more than, all of that rubbish, then we can start to live in alignment with the greater cosmos, where all energy is just a vibrational frequency of either one or the other. You just have to feel it. When you're not feeling well, you feel heavy. You know that your vibrational frequency is low. When you feel happy, you're up there and you feel light because your frequency is high. We just don't seem to pay attention to it, and we think it's because we've just had a cream cake. No, it's so we need to learn so much more about ourselves. So in this journey that they showed me was that during this photon belt, which is, if you then look at it from where we go, we're in the dawning age, which means that during dawn, I don't know if you've been to Uluru.
Yes.
Yes, and have you gone to that wonderful thing where we all stand there and freeze our little bottoms off to wait for the sunrise?
I haven't, no.
Oh my God, it was so cold. And we're waiting for that speck of the sun to come above the horizon. So that is where we are in the Golden Age. We are in that place where, in that moment, if you look at every night, around 4 o'clock or 5, just before the dawning, is when it is at its coldest. So we become, it's like there's a contraction. And so then this sun starts to peak above the horizon. Now, if you look at that in the big picture, the Golden Age is coming. And in that photon belt of dawn, that is where we're at. We're at where the sun is starting to peak, but it still has no warmth yet, right? You can see the light, but it hasn't got any warmth yet. And in our day, we know that it takes several hours for that sun to have its warmth. In Melbourne today, I don't know that it's even going to get there, but, that is what happens. So that was the picture. That's how I can really put it in very simple terms where people can understand what we're going through in a bigger picture. And we humans have very little control over that. The Earth is on that trajectory and has been before. So, no, we can't control climate change. I'm very, very sorry to tell you that. Yes, we are certainly not helping the Earth with how we've treated her, but that isn't going to stop us from moving into a different climate, simply because we will be in a different position to that central sun. And we're all being, we're all feeling the radiation of that sun is becoming stronger. I don't know what it's like up in Queensland, but down here certainly we can already feel that the sun feels stronger. However, I also know that we are we're being upgraded to be able to accommodate that higher frequency, and that's why we're all going through changes in our physiology, because we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. We are part of the whole natural process. So that's really how I see this movement through this photonic time, which is just we were going through the dawn. And so as we move forward, that sun is getting, the light is getting brighter, the frequency is getting higher. And then also I did quite a bit of work with a beautiful woman, what's her name, Marx Hubbard. And I just, she was always about the next human. And we are the people that are walking across the bridge from Homo sapien to whatever you want to call the next phase. And I find that incredibly exciting as our DNA is, being reactivated, as you said before. And so we really need to individually stop getting so attached to our physical world and be much more excited about what is possible, because we are the creators. And one of the most wonderful things that I am observing is the creativity that is bursting forth from all the people that are walking away from their constricted jobs and are now finding new ways of educating their children from a creative place instead of from a deducation place, as Sovereign loves to call it. And they are finding new ways of putting their service out there, and they're finding new ways of sharing and caring, and they're alivening themselves, and it's so exciting to watch.
It's incredible, and bravo to anyone who is really on the front line and having to make those kind of choices at the moment and go with absolute trust in the divine and, watching the miracles unfold in their life. It's just so powerful. People ask me all the time, and I'm sure they do with you as well, Yvonne, when are we going to see this stop? When are we going to see the government back off? But actually, the question, and I say this with love, the question's inappropriate. There is no when, because it is now. There is only ever the eternal now moment. And it, again, comes back to our own resonance and our own vibration, how we are interacting with all that is. And so we can make a choice in the now moment to be in the fifth dimensional consciousness. And for those who are listening that haven't explored dimensions or multidimensionality before, the simplest way to view it is that the fifth dimension overlays the third dimension. It's almost like you talked about the bridge before, it's almost like a bridge between dimensions through the fourth dimension, which is really the energy realms. And of course, in the energy realms, we see the good energy, the God energy, and we also see the satanic energy. That's nothing to be feared, because Satan or the devil will certainly come and knock on your door, but you don't have to let Satan in your house. You do not have to welcome that force in. It's all around you. Yes, you can't change that, not here in this current dimensional frequency that we're inhabiting. But you do change it by your decision to say no. Someone said it before in the comments, just learn to say no. Just say no. No, devil, I'm not going to dance with you. Thanks for your offer. However, I don't want to follow your dictates. I am going to just stand here in my sovereign power, and I'm going to find my own way through. Maybe it's like a maze, but it could be a fun maze if we choose it to be so. And so immediately then we awaken into the fifth dimensional consciousness. We've aligned ourselves with grace. We allow then all that benevolent energy to show us and reveal itself in every single now moment. What's interesting for me, where I've moved to, Yvonne, because I'm just exploring the nature and the creatures around here. I talked about the crocodiles, but also where I am, it's a rainforest area. And every single night, I'm going to call it fairies. To me, they're absolutely fairies are coming out. So I guess they're like the fireflies that light up, and they dance through the forest, and it's so absolutely enchanting. And I realized that if I was to have a visual of what 5D Earth looks like, this is what it would look like. The fairies are dancing in the forest. There's light glowing around me that's not coming from any street light. It absolutely is possible, and we choose it, we command it, we claim it, and we step into it because we know that we're worthy. We are the children of the divine. We cannot be separate. We are the droplet or the godlet in the ocean of consciousness. It is our duty to choose that way, because the other way, even though if people get tripped up and say, oh, that's very egotistical, you think that you're part of God. Well, actually, the other way is the ego. The other way is the denial that you are love, that you are beauty, that you are peace, that you are joy, that you are abundance. Why would you ever deny that energy within yourself? And so we have these clever terms to wrap all those words up into one term, which we call God or divine. That's all that we're saying, that we are a unique part of it, but we are not separate. We are certainly not separate. And it is so, I agree with you, it is so beautiful seeing the creativity of the way that people are choosing to navigate their life and choosing to take the road that maybe they never have before, or maybe their logical mind that had them living in the box thought life was going to play itself out. And if we can just make peace that we chose this, nothing's been done to us. We are not victims. We chose even the nefarious forces. They are even a part of this galactic story that are so necessary that one day we'll thank them for playing that most horrid role here, so that we could embody this whole realm and experience form and matter and be on our own hero's journey.
Oh, look, what you just said is so powerful, because I keep looking at the contrast. Okay, one of the reasons that humanity is finding this transition so difficult is because they haven't got an alternative to go towards, because it's an unknown. And what we are learning is that we live in contrast. The positive and negatives are two energetic polarities that are necessary for each other to exist. So for energy to grow, it needs to push off on something. And so the contrast, all these people that we call devils and the fairies, every night I send them love and gratitude, because they're showing me the other side. They're showing me the light. And what a role they're playing. What a role to accept, to play that role. Every morning I ask, my team, what's my role? And I'm sure that, they might not be conscious about what role they're playing, but somewhere they had a soul agreement to do it. And the other thing that you just said about, there are a lot of people who keep asking, so when will it be over, and when is the government going to, change? Well, let me just say that is a very third dimensional question, because the change has to come from within us. So when we are standing up and taking back our sovereignty, they can no longer exist. So whilst we allow them to still have that power in our mindset, where we keep looking for someone out there to fix it, is someone else going to fix it? I haven't listened to the mainstream media for 40 years. I haven't had a newspaper in my hands for that long, because it has nothing in there that is going to make me expand and grow and become an expression of love and peace and harmony. And when you've lived through horrors as a child, and which was the contrast for me, was to, if you cannot express love in my life and you cannot have peace, then you're not in my life. It's just that simple. So I never had a problem with saying no. Having lived through, the World War II, I've seen the playbook. It's exactly the same. So I look at governments and I go, I don't need them. They're not part of my life. I'm looking to them to fix my life, because I'm self-governing. I'm self-governing. I believe and I know how this universe works. That was always my passion. How does this work? And it works very simply. It is an electromagnetic universe. What you send out vibrationally is what's going to come and hit you. So for me to be going out and looking for someone outside to fix it, I'm giving them the power. And they are not doing very well with it. So I'd rather have it myself and direct where love lives. And therefore I feel the question is perhaps still attached to hoping someone's going to fix it. But those someones are still an expression of the part of us that needs to be upgraded and uplifted into a high vibrational frequency. And that is what I love about the demonstrations around Australia, which is so based on love. It is time to stop having placards, asking for governments to step down. That we must have placards of oneness, of unity, of love, of togetherness. I love the song, "We Are One, We Are Australian." And the latest one, "Enough is Enough," that was created over the weekend here. We have to, love is all there is. These are the songs we need to sing. This is what we need to come out to share. Yeah, you talked about the 60s. I was actually not part of that actively, but it was the time of flower power. And that is where, the love energy, which was a little bit misdirected, but however, that is what we've got to do. We've got to flood the whole world with love energy, because this other side that you can call whatever you want, feeds on fear. And so the moment that you go from fear to love, you're starving it. And if you're self-governing, well, governments have nothing to govern.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So, really, that for me is, I have never, I have never consented to any politician. If you go into a committee, if there's politics involved, it destroys it in a moment. So why?
and
why
I guess,
do it?
Yeah, I love it. It's the reminder that what happens in our own reality is what we give permission to. Absolutely. We truly have forgotten how sovereign we are, and that we are always in command of our reality. So if we permission something, if we consent to something, then it unfolds. And that's all the nefarious side is offering. They're offering the darkest, lowest road. And if we say yes to it, well, of course, that's going to become our reality. However, if we say no, and someone said before, no is a complete sentence. I didn't put that comment up, and I saw it. It was so good. Just no, and you don't even have to have a story attached in your own mind as to why you're saying no, because
you don't have to
in the moment.
You don't have to do anything. I had a dental appointment, right? In a because of my age, I have a dental, whatever, clinic now. A community one, and I walked in, and there was a sign, "No mask, no entry." This is a health service. So I went, "Look, I'm exempt." And she goes, "Well, you can't come in." I went, "This is still a health service?" And she goes, "Yes." And so I stood there. It was pouring with rain outside and cold. And she said, "Well, you have to go outside and wait." And I went, "That's such human care and kindness, right? Send them. Yes, I look fit and healthy, but hey, I'm an elderly citizen." And here we are. I'm pushed out the door into the rain. Well, that's what you'd like. And because I wasn't prepared to wear, this thing on my face. So she goes to the dentist and asks the receptionist, and she comes out and says, "Well, she said, if you wait in your car, then we'll ring you, and then you can come in, because we cannot allow you to sit with other patients in the waiting room." And I looked at her and I laughed, and I went, "You know what? Thank you. This is so good, because I know where I don't want to be. I'm going home. See you later."
Good on
and
you.
I came home, and I did a Zoom session with some Brave New Life people, and I just said, "Oh, they're my people." Yeah. Who needs that? And it's just going, you know what? And you can't hide behind your job. Sorry, people. You cannot say, "I'm just doing it because it's my job." Every individual on this earth is accountable for their own choices and their own actions. That is what self-governing is about. Does it come from love? Great. Does it come from anything else? Not so great. And it will come and visit you. That's how this universe works all the time. So it is.
Oh, hi, Raylene. Raylene's one of our podcast regulars. Hello, darling.
Okay. That was a very large comment.
Beautiful grid worker herself, light worker, and everyone else. I'm seeing so many familiar names coming through. So as we get to time, Yvonne, let's just wrap it up. Our theme today was breaking our convict chain. So maybe we can all just have a visual of what that looks like. How can we see not only our own chains of restriction and slavery and any oaths that we've made with the Archon forces and all of these kind of things. You know, if you've got to go galactic to have a bit of a sense of what we agreed to in some other realm before we came here, or what we've agreed to along the way, how can we break those chains? So just see it now, everyone. Just see the chains breaking. And let's just see ourselves in that fifth dimensional consciousness. For me, it was the fairies in the forest. What is your visual? For people who are listening, what is your visual of fifth dimensional consciousness? And claim it. Know that it's here now. It's not out in front of you. It's always in the now moment, and it's always available to you. Because again, it's the reminder, you are a child of the universe, and you deserve only the highest, most beautiful, most loving, most abundant, most peaceful, most joyous. I could go on with all the adjectives, but whatever you want to put in there to add to that, that is what you deserve. That is what you came here to experience. And we had to have the contrast. We have to make peace that we had to have the contrast. Remember, we chose it, our own hero's journey. We chose the villain, we chose the opponent, we chose every time we stumbled, we chose every time we made a so-called mistake, we chose every time that we so-called got it wrong and had to beat our head against the proverbial brick wall. We chose every time that we were hurt or we hurt someone else. We chose all the traumas and all the pain and all the anguish so we would have the contrast, so that when we came into this awakening, this ascension, this golden age, we would truly, truly appreciate and experience the rapture as we set it up for ourselves to experience. So we are always in command of what's happening, and we can make peace with that time that we were asleep to our own creation. And that's all that was going on. We were never forsaken. We were never forgotten. We were just asleep to our own creation. And as our DNA codes start to come online again, what I love about our technology speak, it's the same speak that we use for Ascension and for our own DNA activating, coming online from that dormant state. The codes, we talk about codes when we create a website, we've got codes that we're writing in the background to create pretty pictures on the screen. It's the same with our life. We're writing codes within ourselves to create the pretty pictures in the third dimension or fifth dimension for ourselves. So we can do this. We can be our own creator self that has remembered who we are. And so we're breaking those convict chains, and we're saying, absolutely not. This is our path now. We're diving into that fast-flowing river. We're letting the river of life take us where it needs to, because we don't want to control this. Because maybe we're carrying some concepts from the past that we think the way things ought to be or should be or have always been, so therefore they're going to repeat themselves. We've got to be willing to release all of that. We've got to be willing to step into the absolute unknown and let ourselves be carried by grace, because we will, I'm sure, all surprise ourselves as to what we actually will manifest here in this golden age. I'm going to say we're living now. I know for everyone listening here, you're already anchored in that fifth dimensional consciousness. So final words, Yvonne, based on our theme for today, to wrap it up and our convict chains that are breaking.
Well, I want to start with this. It's inevitable. So, our evolution is inevitable. Our ascension is inevitable. So if you really grasp that even though you haven't got a clear picture of what that looks like, it is a heck of a lot better than where we're coming from. So just allow that to come forth into your life and let go of the fear of the unknown. Embrace it and go, okay, bring it on. Whatever it is that I'm supposed to be next, that I'm supposed to learn next, bring it on, because it's going to take me just a bit closer. And yes, some of us have progressed a little bit further into this higher frequency, and we are creating miracles like that, because that is the picture of this fifth dimensional frequency that we've named it, which is a dimension of transparency. So we will not be able to hide anything. And that is why the fear won't have any power, because we will be transparent to each other vibrationally. You will not be able to think one thing and say another. Well, you can try, but it won't work. But you see, you won't even have the concept of it. Our great grandchildren, that are coming on, they won't even have the concept of war in their mind. It won't exist there. All that is going to be wiped away, because there is this transparency. We will communicate energetically with each other. Well, we do it now. Animals do it with us all the time, right? People say dogs smell fear. No, they don't. They sense it. Their horses are the most incredible. Animals have such sensitivities that we have numbed by going to, to Walmart or Kmart or whatever, wherever we're not allowed at the moment. We've been so distracted by physical trinkets that we've forgotten that we are nature. We have this sensitivity. And so in the fifth dimensional, we have nothing to hide. We will just be transparent and coming from pure love. And that means that there will be no lack, because we'll all be there for each other, and we'll be living our passion and our creativity in freedom. So that is where we're going. So let go of fear and throw yourself into that river that Carrie-Anne talks about, and let's all just float down to this beautiful place.
Oh,
and thank you so much, Carrie-Anne, today.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you to all the beautiful comments here, because I love the lives, because you can really experience the high frequency of the one tribe that we all are. We're just the ones that happen to be on the screen, but you can feel the energy. Even my dogs have a little say hello there. You feel the energy coming in from everyone. So sending you all much love, and now that I'm back, I think we might be doing this more often. Hey, Yvonne?
Oh, that would be fantastic. Well, we've been brought together for a reason. Everything has a reason, I think.
Absolutely. Thanks for all the comments. They're still coming in. I won't get them all up. Thanks, guys. Much love.
Bye. And I'll be with Sovereign tomorrow at 2 p.m. We're going to talk about the power of water.
Oh, wow. Perfect. That sounds awesome. Love it.
Yep.
Tune in, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.